Welcome to today's explainer. So if you've been experimenting with AI video generation, you already know that absolute magic of seeing your text prompt instantly come to life. But you probably also know the immense frustration of having that magic abruptly stop after just 5 seconds. It is especially annoying when you're trying to build expansive, cinematic nature documentaries, something like The Incredible World of Ants. Well, today we are transforming those disjointed, short AI clips into cohesive, professional quality sequences. Think of this explainer as your ultimate journey from a casual prompter to a master AI director. Because let's be honest, this is the most common roadblock in AI filmmaking right now. How exactly do you take a brief 5-second generation and build it out into a cinematic masterpiece? We've all been there, right? You get this beautiful macro shot of an ant, and then suddenly it grows 5 extra legs on frame 60, or the camera gets super woozy, or the clip just ends right when the action peaks. It's incredibly frustrating. But today, I promise you a true problem solution arc. We're going to build a reliable professional production pipeline to fix exactly these issues. Okay, let's dive into this roadmap. Today we'll be covering 1. Foundations of AI cinematography. 2. Mastering character consistency. 3. Video-to-video style transfer. 4. Extending clips seamlessly. And 5. Polishing the final cut.
Starting right off with Section 1, Foundations of AI Cinematography.
You know, the absolute most critical thing to remember here is what we call the camera metaphor. Traditional filmmaking rules absolutely still apply to AI. Whether you're aiming for a high-end nature documentary style, like framing a mole or an intricate ant colony, traditional framing is vital. Things like placing your subject cleanly against a natural background using the rule of thirds, a clean background, steady lighting, and a very clear subject provide this stable visual context that AI models desperately need to function properly. Basically, if you start with a chaotic, poorly framed shot, the AI is literally just going to amplify that chaos.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the difference in camera movement. You might really want a cool, shaky, handheld documentary look to follow an insect through the brush, but dynamic camera movement introduces massive complexity for the AI. Subject motion, depth shifting, lighting changes, and motion blur. All of that often leads to frame drift and identity warping. Static shots, on the other hand, yield vastly superior AI results simply because the model can easily track spatial relationships. Bottom line, if you want cleaner outputs, reduce unnecessary camera motion in your base prompts.
So how do we actually get those clean shots? Well, your prompts need serious structure. Vague prompts give weak results, for sure. Instead of just typing cinematic, you want a highly actionable checklist built right into your prompt. Define the visual medium, something like macro, cinematic, nature, documentary aesthetic. Then define the lighting style, like warm highlights. Specify texture direction, and absolutely crucially, motion guidance. Telling the AI to stabilize motion or use a shallow depth of field gives the model the specific constraints it needs to generate a beautiful, stable shot.
Moving right along to Section 2, Mastering Character Consistency.
This is huge, because even if your lighting is absolutely perfect, it's a total nightmare when your lead character subtly morphs into an entirely different creature mid-shot. Consistency requires strong scene tracking, and platforms like Kling and Magic Hour are built specifically for this. They ensure that an animal's anatomical structure, the specific environment, or complex compositions remain completely intact, even as a scene progresses and motion increases. It's really cool to see how newer models are getting so much better at referencing the original video frames to maintain an unbroken visual identity throughout the entire clip.
Which brings us to Section 3, Video-to-Video Style Transfer.
This is where we elevate the workflow beyond just generating a raw image or a basic text-to-video clip, and we step into true post-production styling. Now, you really need to know the difference between superficial filter apps and true video-to-video AI. A lot of mobile apps out there market themselves as AI, but honestly, they just slap a visual filter over your footage. The original footage structure is preserved, sure, but it fails the very second complex motion happens. True professional systems, like Runway Gen 3, deeply reinterpret the frames. They generate entirely new visual structures while preserving the complex motion of the original video. It is literally the difference between a cheap Instagram filter and professional visual effects.
When you're using Runway Gen 3, the rule is surprisingly simple. The higher the structure transformation value, the more abstract the results. There's a fantastic case study from the creator Hidden Space, who took a video of a street dancer. By setting this value to a mid-range, about 0.5 to 0.7, They perfectly applied a gritty cyberpunk style to the scene while completely retaining the natural, dynamic human dance movements. Now, if they had pushed it all the way up to 1, the environment would entirely morph and they'd lose that structural consistency. So it's all about finding that sweet spot.
All right, Section 4, extending clips seamlessly.
And this brilliantly illustrates our next big hurdle. You've generated a stunning, stylistically perfect AI clip, but it's only 5 seconds long. Viewers will drop off instantly if a scene just ends abruptly without a proper narrative beat. We have to extend it. Now, if you just try to loop the video, it's totally obvious the moment the camera or the subject moves. If you use slow motion, well, you're just stretching existing frames, you aren't adding new action. True AI video extenders, tools like Mealy's or Flixly, actually generate brand new motion and visual content that perfectly follows the original shot. It's not stretching, it is genuinely continuing the scene.
So let's look at the exact technical workflow for a manual extension. First, you take the final few frames, or the last couple of seconds, of your generated clip and upload them back into the model as a reference. Second, you guide the extension with a new prompt describing the exact next action. Third, the AI generates the forward motion. And finally, you can chain these extensions repeatedly. The creator Ozan Sahai demonstrated this beautifully using Midjourney. He started with a simple 5-second wildlife clip of a rabbit. By uploading the last frame and prompting the rabbit to open its mouth, which then amazingly transitions into a cinematic space portal, he chained multiple extensions together to create this massive, surreal, and unbroken sequence. It's just brilliant.
Now, when you're choosing your extension tool, data from Flixly points to Seedance 2.0 and Kling 3.0 as absolute game changers. To put that into perspective, Seedance can reliably add up to 30 extra seconds with a 94% consistency score before motion artifacts start ruining the shot. Guys, this is massive. It means you can finally create long, sweeping, unbroken documentary-style tracking shots of nature habitats, like following a foraging ant through dense foliage without constantly cutting the camera. Finally, Section 5, polishing the final cut. Okay, so you have your extended, stylish, consistent video, but raw AI generations still often look just a little rough around the edges. Every professional director needs a final polish checklist. Raw AI video is frequently generated at 720p and 24 frames per second just to save processing power. You need to use professional tools like Topaz Video AI to upscale your resolution to a crisp 1080p or 4K and interpolate the frames to a smooth 30 frames per second. Actually, fun fact here. Upscaling a 15-second clip to 4K can sometimes take longer to process than generating the clip in the first place. Crazy, right? But that crisp, broadcast-ready result is absolutely worth the wait. Also, if you extended a clip with a speaking character past 15 seconds, you're definitely going to need to use dedicated lip-sync tools, like those found in Flixly, to realign the audio to the video perfectly.
So there you have it. We've moved from the sheer frustration of random 5-second outputs to a highly controlled, professional pipeline utilizing static framing, structural style transfers, seamless AI extensions, and broadcast quality upscaling. The director's toolkit has truly evolved. As AI generation perfectly merges with traditional filmmaking techniques, whether you're building an epic sci-fi landscape or an incredibly detailed world-advanced nature documentary, the only limit left is your imagination. So what impossible worlds will you direct next? Keep experimenting, keep creating, and I'll see you next time.